My next guest spent 4 years rebuilding America's credibility abroad. Now, after 3 months, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo probably has some strong opinions about the direction the Biden administration is taking our nation on the global stage. You know, there's an old adage that elections have consequences, and they certainly do internationally. Here to tell us what these first 100 days have meant for America's reputation on issues like international religious freedom, our relationship with Israel, overseas abortion funding, and so much more is my good friend, Mike Pompeo. Mike, welcome back to Pray Vote Stand.
Tony, it's great to be with you today. Thank you for having me be with you.
You know, I want to start with what to me is one of the most important issues, and you made it one of the most important, if not the most important issue at the State Department under your tenure as secretary, and that was religious freedom, international religious freedom. It's not doing as well today.
Tony, sadly, it appears this administration is putting that on the back burner. We had it as a top priority. A central part of our America First philosophy was that nations that permitted every individual to worship as they saw fit, to practice their faith, like America, had the idea that the state's not going to establish a religion, but everyone has the right for free exercise. Those were healthier nations, they were more prosperous nations, and America was more secure because of that. This administration has not taken that approach. They've indicated they're going to not have the ministerials that we held. They took down from a central place at the State Department the Unalienable Rights Commission work that so many had delivered such good product that mattered to human rights around the world. It's really deeply disappointing. They've put the Green New Deal at the top of their agenda. They have in some sense traded religious freedom for a sense of climate change as their number one priority as they move around the world talking to other nations.
You know, that's certainly frustrating for us at home. You know, after 4 years of having priorities that really, I think were in line, in step with America's core principles, now to shift, as you said, to the new Green New Deal, the global warming agenda, promotion of abortion abroad, forcing taxpayers to fund it. This not only has effects upon Americans, but how does this impact our relationship with countries abroad?
Tony, every country looks to the United States as a beacon. We don't get it right every day, but people around the world understand that America is a force for good wherever we go. And when they see us now promoting abortion under the guise of family planning, or they watch us say, let's sacrifice economic prosperity so that we can reduce just a little bit of carbon when science indicates it won't make a heck of a lot of difference, or when they see us deprioritize religious freedom, the capacity for minority faiths who are persecuted around the world, Christians, the Uyghurs in China, Catholics in the northern part of China as well. When they see that, when they see those fundamental rights that America has always championed be delegitimized or not prioritized, they don't view as America as a strong partner. And you know this, Tony. Weakness begets war. When America is strong, when America is determined, we are less likely to have to send our boys and girls to fight. And it was something we were very focused on. And that's why we laid out the foreign policy agenda that we did.
Yeah, when you hesitate, it can be disastrous. And I think that's where America is hesitating. People don't know where we stand. I mean, I actually thought of you just the night before last when I was having conversations with the leadership of another country. I won't mention which one, but concerned about already the State Department now putting pressure on these countries to change their laws on abortion. This is a country that's very pro-life, and they're being strong-armed to change their views on human sexuality and abortion, or else they lose foreign aid. You know, what do we say to those countries that are being jerked around this way?
I would urge them quite simply, Tony, to honor their people. We put America first. We had America's priorities as our number one priority. That they should do the same for their nation and for their people. They should preserve the things that are central to their culture, that are consistent with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the things we all know to be true about every human being being created in the image of God. If they do those things and they do them well, I'm confident that they will serve their people. I regret that the United States is putting pressure on anyone to promote or underwrite or to fund abortions. It's deeply antithetical. And when you do it under the guise of family planning, and America ties its family planning resources to that. The destructiveness, not only to the human beings that are impacted, but to our relationship with these countries around the world, is not good for the American people.
Now, Mike Pompeo, you've been around politics for a while, and you know that elections have consequences, and you know the parties have different priorities, and you knew there would be a change if in fact we had a new administration come in. That happened. But what has been the most surprising and striking about the first 100 days of the Biden administration to you?
You know, what strikes me is that the progressive left, the hardest of the hardcores, have clearly dominated President Biden's policy. I know Senator Biden, I knew Vice President Biden. These policies that he's put in place across the board, both domestically and internationally, are not the kinds of things that he would have championed 20 or 30 years ago, the things that we thought Joe Biden believed in. Indeed, what he's pushing is the radical far left woke agenda. We see it in every front, whether it's the disaster that they've created along our southern border, whether it's the conversations that they're having even today in Vienna about an ally of ours, Israel, where they're going to hand a lot of power to Iran that has genocidal intent with respect to Israel. Those are issues that the old Scoop Jackson Democrat Party, they would have never done that. This is now a Democrat Party controlled by the furthest left, and that won't be good for American security. It certainly won't be good for the American people.
I want to play a short clip of Senator Lindsey Graham discussing the first 100 days of the Biden administration from its international impact and get you to comment on that.
Joe Biden's become an incredibly destabilizing American president. He took a border that was pretty calm and turned it into chaos. The Mideast had been transformed on Trump's watch, where the Arabs were working with the Israelis and had Iran in a box. He's taken Iran and let them out of the box. They're talking about enriching uranium at 60% now, which is a direct threat to the existence of the state of Israel. The Russians are challenging him in the Ukraine, and now he is withdrawing forces in Afghanistan against sound military advice. He's paving the way for another 9/11. I think Joe Biden on foreign policy has been completely incompetent and destabilizing.
Is Joe Biden a destabilizing force internationally?
He has definitely not demonstrated the power and strength that the Trump administration did. And that strength is important because it deters our adversaries. I would add this: him walking away from the pro-life commitments that we had made, walking away from the religious freedom commitments that we'd made, walking away from the challenge to the Chinese Communist Party that President Trump was the first president to ever undertake. I would add those to the list that Senator Graham provided there. And what the world is seeing, they're seeing a weaker America, an America that is focused on its own internal issues. It is talking about racism in ways that are confounding, right? You had the United States ambassador to the United Nations go to the UN and compare the United States human rights record with Iran and with China and with Russia, and to say that America's founding, our nation, our Judeo-Christian heritage is fundamentally somehow flawed. The world is watching that. When they see that, Tony, it presents enormous risk because our adversaries will see that we could be pushed around, and they will continue to try to do that. They will test this administration. I hope that this administration is prepared to do the things that are necessary to keep us safe and strong and continue to make this the most exceptional nation in the history of civilization.
I mean, history has repeatedly taught us that peace is obtained through strength, as you pointed out. And I'm afraid showing weakness in this, whatever they want to describe it as, a more compassionate front only communicates weakness to our adversaries, as you pointed out. I want to ask you this final question, Mike Pompeo. You know, people were very encouraged by the litany of things that you just pointed out that the Trump administration did, making international religious freedom a priority, top foreign policy priority. No longer was abortion being funded in our foreign policy. And you went to great lengths to make sure that even secondary and third sources that might do that were identified, and so that no government money went to that. that all changed overnight with the Biden administration. And people, a lot of folks I've heard it, they're discouraged. Can we get that back? Can we get America back on the right track? And what would you encourage our viewers, our listeners to be doing right now?
I'd say three things, Tony. First, speak your faith. Talk about this with your friends at work. Make this something that is a topic of conversation. Let them know how you think America needs to proceed. When we do that as faithful servants of the Lord, we have every opportunity to make America better. Second, live it. Run for school board, join the PTA, participate in a community activity, underwrite an organization like this one or another great organization that is promoting religious freedom and the values that we care about. If you do those things, we'll make America far better. And then finally, you've said this twice now, elections do have consequences. We are now just a matter of months before a series of primaries, then ultimately an election in November of next year. If we can turn course, if we can gain control of the Senate, United States Senate, and the United States House of Representatives, in addition to more governorships and more state legislatures, the risk that the Biden administration will be able to undermine the things that we hold most dear will be greatly reduced. Every one of us can participate in that. I hope everyone will join us.
Well, and we certainly will be doing our part to encourage people to do just that. As always, Mike Pompeo, great to talk with you, and thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Tony. Bless you. So long.